Velkommen alle sammen. Just released a poll earlier on last week that you guys have voted on, so my videos going forward in the future, I'll try to keep them, organized, kind of split up like this, but definitely a lot more on the actual practice of paganism, so we can get this as historically accurate as possible. I see some other channels here on YouTube and in social media talking about altars, and I have no idea what these people are smoking, thinking that these little wooden garbage little tables set up in their bedrooms are a Norse Pagan altar, because that's exactly the opposite of what the altar was in Norse Pagan times. And in this video I'm going to speak about what the sources say, so we can get our offerings or magic or whatever practices we're doing historically as accurate as possible. So first of all, the Old Norse word for altar is Hörgr. It means pile of stones, simple as that. We can of course find different styles that these were used at different places in Europe, but plain and simple, if an altar is not made up of stone, it is not a Norse Pagan altar. I will say one thing though, if we look at cognates of this word in different Northern European languages, we do find some additional information about what the meaning could be. It's related to maybe groves or temples, or even related to the Celtic word for cliff. So it for sure has to do with some sort of sacred places like that, and I'll speak about what these are in just a minute. But yeah, again, I see people making their altars in their bedroom, and that's fine. That's okay. There are many religions in the world that use altars indoors, and even altars inside one's own home, but the Norse Pagan altar is not one of them. A Norse Pagan altar is always outside in nature, made from nature. So it's really not that hard to find some rocks and pile them together. I think we can all do that. Anyway, on to what the sources say about altars. There are too many to go over here. It's mentioned hundreds of times in sagas and poems and things like that, but I'm putting up a few here, and I always put links to some of the sources I'm speaking about in the description of my videos if you guys are interested in reading more. But to sum it up, here are a few things that we can learn from what the sources say about Hörgr. First, it was separate from the Hof. There was a clear distinction between the Hof or hall and an altar. So they were for sure two different places, but an altar could be a part of the temple, which would be a more kind of outdoor, open air type of thing. And I'm making a video about that soon. It's definitely open air, the Hörgr it was supposed to be, but we do have one source from Beowulf, and there a Hörgr is kind of, it's suggested as it may have like a kind of wooden type of teepee tent built over it. So possible that there could be some sort of shelter over the Hörgr, but it would be very minimal. Number two, that the Hörgr was a key element of worship. It was not just used for sacrifices, but for various purposes, and even it seems as though creating this altar was not just a place to practice your religion, but the altar itself was an idol to your gods and religion, so building it, it was something that could be raised in honor of them in a way, compared to like a monument like we have today. Number three, it has to be built. Don't buy some cheap garbage, made in China and use that as your altar. I love IKEA, but it's not a suitable place, nor is anywhere else a suitable place to buy your altar. Get out in nature and make one yourself. That's the important part. Number four, it's supposed to be reddened with blood. Now, I would never advocate for harming animals unless you kill it humanely and eat all the edible parts. Ideally, one day I'll have a farm and can do this the historically accurate way, but for most of us today, just getting some blood from the local butcher shop is about the best we can do. Number five, sacred places. Altars always seem to be in some sort of sacred place. But it seems like not only were Hörgr built in sacred places, but this act of building a Hörgr could make a place sacred in itself. And the place that I've chosen here, long story, I've been using this place for many years, but I'll do another video about that, about what makes this place actually sacred. But I'll go over a few things that we can learn from archaeological records and evidence of altars. I'm showing a little slideshow. We find these in Scandinavia, sure, but we also find them all over Europe, most of all in the British Isles. They're called cairns here. Sometimes they're just small piles of rocks like this. Sometimes they are large piles of rocks like these mounds. Sometimes they are very elaborate and designed like this, you know, and there's an altar in the Netherlands with depictions of the Germanic gods. Sometimes pagan altars look like this, and sometimes they look like this. You know, I know you guys have seen these before, okay? So as you can see, European pagan religions were really not that different. And we were all one people with one religion if we go back far enough in time. What you're seeing here in these examples is just different ways that European pagans set up their altars, but it all comes back to this idea of sacred places and, you know, stone, channeling this idea of animism and spiritual energy and rocks in order to create our sacred places of worship. And I'll be honest, okay, there's a lot of these. There's no way to tell if they were actually used as altars. Because some of them are clearly for hunting, some of them are just burial places, and some of them are just for finding your way home, you know. We really can't be sure about all of them. Also, it's very difficult to tell when most of these were built, and it's damn near impossible to tell why these were built. I mean, geez, look at Stonehenge. So this, as much research and studies that have been done on Stonehenge, we still have no idea why humans built this or how they were able to build this even. So at the end of the day, all that does not matter. At the end of the day, it is our pagan ancestors who found these places to be sacred and channeled their animistic beliefs and used these rocks and stones and brought the rocks' spiritual energy to this sacred place. It's all the same, no matter what you do there. You know, an altar is just a method of worship, a place for worship. So if there is some sort of sacred aspect to this place that you have built yourself, that makes it an altar. It's all the same. So I hope that, guys, gives you a better idea of how to use a Norse pagan altar the historically accurate way. I'll be doing much more videos about this, especially sacred places and how to find or create them according to the Norse pagan sources. So that's it for today. Vi ses nästa gång.